Hello, everyone, and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven,
My name is Jerry.
and we are here the morning after.
Yeah.
Could not stay up last night to do a podcast. Jerry went to the game. I was feeling, not in the best headspace to do a podcast, even though I was very excited about the win. But CBDX, I had taken a little gummy and just didn't feel like I was going to be a very good podcast host at that point. So Panthers did win 25-15. They beat the Atlanta Falcons at
Yeah.
home in the blackout game. Very exciting. Good game for the Panthers. Great defensive effort. Jerry went to the game. So Jerry, I'm going to kind of let you tell us how the experience was out there in the rain.
Uh, luckily it wasn't that cold. I had a rain jacket on. My wife convinced me to buy a poncho there. It didn't take much convincing. She was like, "Look, they cover your legs too." I was like, "Yeah, let's get that." So
Yeah.
I called it my little cocoon. I was in like all that, and I was like clapping and stuff. I stayed pretty dry except for my feet. It was
Yeah.
good. I mean, the atmosphere was really good too. Everybody was standing almost the entire game. I know there was quite a few empty seats with the team playing it the way it was, but it felt
Mm-hmm.
loud and it felt I don't know if it came across, but I felt like the fans were into it. At least in my section, my brother also went and he said his section stood and cheered the whole game too. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I found the Amazon broadcast to be a little weird with crowd noise.
hmm
It's it's a little hard to hear, but from what I could tell, it did sounded loud. But yeah, I did notice a lot of empty seats there. But with the weather and the way the team was playing, that's not a surprise.
no.
You know.
And it was a majority of Panther fans. I saw sporadic
Yeah.
Falcons fans, but the stadium, the fans that showed up all wore black except for their rain jackets and stuff, which rightfully
Mm-hmm.
so. You you wear what you got. You don't want to get soaking wet. So
Yeah, it would have been cool to see like the whole stadium blacked out. That would have been pretty sweet. But the
it's
helmets looked great. I thought the uniform combination was incredible. I would love
yeah,
to see more of it. It was so sleek and clean. Like it just looked good.
it really did. I 100% agree. When I was like watching it, I was like, yeah, that looks smooth. Like
Yeah,
someone said that
really nice.
someone on Twitter did say that the Panther didn't pop out, and I could kind of see that. I was looking at some pictures later
Mm-hmm.
on. I was like, okay, yeah, it didn't pop out as much as I thought they would, and maybe they just brighten that up, or they keep it dark if they want to keep that incognito all dark look.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could add some silver to the helmet. I think would make it pop a little more.
Maybe just the Panther in silver.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they could or line it in silver or something. They could improve it, tweak it just a little bit. But I thought it looked really good.
Yeah,
I thought the field looked incredible. The end zones with kind of the pixelated camo looked awesome. The Panther at midfield was a little different. It looked great. They really did a good job making everything look good. I didn't see the players slipping around out there in the rain or anything, so I guess the turf held up pretty well as well.
yeah. Hey, well, I mean, it's turf. It doesn't really get, you know, but yeah.
Well, some turf gets really slick, like especially in the old days.
Well, they may have already known the way that it was going to be.
Yeah.
So, because you're right. I know I've heard soccer players talk about they hate playing
Mm-hmm.
on turf because it does get so slick. But I don't know if maybe since they knew it was supposed to be so stormy that they wore extra long cleats or, but yeah, you're
Yeah, I'm
right.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like I said, 25-15. The Panthers moved to 3-7. Falcons dropped to 4-6. If Tampa Bay loses Sunday in Munich, which anything can happen in Munich, as we all know.
And Seattle's good right now. Let's not kid
Seattle's good.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Geno Smith is
they could
playing.
win anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Panthers would be a game out if that happens. We'd be right back in it.
once
I
they
mean, which
got
I feel
out,
like is
they dragged me right back in.
that's what I'm saying. Like it varies week to week how I feel about this team. Do I feel like, all right, hey, we're right back in the playoff mix, or hey, we get this top 3 pick. It just depends on how they play. And I didn't think they played a perfect game tonight, but I thought they were good enough with the elements and everything else. Or last night, I should say, with the elements and everything else. I thought they had a really good game plan. Honestly, I think this offense was made to play in a game like this.
Yeah. That's what Steve Wilkes wants. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it seems like. And to a certain extent, I agree that this is the way. I just think we do need to have a quarterback and a offensive coordinator that does try to push the ball down the field more.
Yeah.
This game was a special event just because with the rain, I mean, everything was wet at the game. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it went varying from like that constant drizzle that everything just gets
Mm-hmm.
wet to pretty hard rain down. So, I
Yeah.
mean, everything was just sopping wet.
Yeah, you could see from the broadcast that it was at times it got pretty
Yeah.
hard out there, but it didn't seem like there was too much wind, which was good.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I mean overall, like I said, I think the Panthers' offensive style just worked better than the Falcons' offensive style in this game.
Especially considering the Falcons love to run the ball. It seemed like they just
Mm-hmm.
could not get much going on. I'm sure we'll look at the stats here in a little bit and it'll show that, but it just seems like they just could not get going. Which credit to the defense. After that
Yeah.
abysmal game last week against the run, they showed up this week.
Yeah, honestly thought the Falcons went away from the run too much because they actually ran pretty well when they did run. But like you said, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Let's get to the key plays in this game. We will start off in the second quarter. We've got a 2nd and 8 at the Atlanta 41. Panthers currently leading 3-0. And a Laviska Shenault run for 41 yards. Touchdown. Nice play. It was a little screen pass that I guess went backwards just enough to count as a run. That was a pass all the way. But again, it was exactly what we see from Laviska Shenault every week whenever they use him.
And it's the same play like 5 times this game, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Either way,
no, it was like 10 times. They ran the same play like 10 times. They either ran it or they threw it to Shenault. Those are the only two things that happened.
So I do want to credit DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall Jr. I rewatched this play today. Those boys, for wide receiver, got after their corners in front of them and made those blocks held long enough just to squeak Shenault out. And I don't know if they said it on broadcast, but that sprung them. That sprung him, and they're wide receivers. A lot of receivers don't like to make those plays, and hats off to those guys. Obviously, hats off for Shenault for making the play and everything else, but felt like they need a compliment. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. They did both of them. It was very evident watching the replay. They didn't really call it out in the broadcast to a great extent, I should say. But it was definitely that's why he scored. I mean, the blocking downfield was great. So, but Shenault, man, get him the ball more. He's a playmaker. We like that guy.
Absolutely, and not only on that same screen over and over again. They keep faking the end around to him, but they don't do it. I'm like,
I mean, just let him line up in the slot.
Yeah,
and go run a route every once in a while. I think he could do that. He's pretty talented.
I'm assuming his route tree is not just that play. So yeah, I agree.
I would hope. Yeah, I would hope. All right, what's our next play here?
Panthers up 13-9 right after the Falcons touchdown. Third quarter, 5:33 left. 2nd and 7. PJ Walker pass short left to Terrace Marshall. Terrace Marshall breaks tackles, goes for 43 yards to Atlanta's 38. This was capped off with a Deontay Foreman touchdown. I debated which one I wanted to go with. I felt like right after the touchdown, the second play, this one, just really sprung the offense back into that, hey, we've got this. We're not going to fall apart, guys.
Yeah, and again, it's a short pass that the receiver did the work. And Terrace Marshall made some nice tackle breaks. That was his only catch in this game, but it was a good one. And again, with the rain and everything, the passing game just wasn't a big factor for the Panthers in this game. But I like this one to Terrace Marshall. I like that you included this one as a key play. Man, I'm really liking Terrace Marshall. I hope that they continue to let him evolve, give him opportunities.
Yeah, and this is what I saw. I thought he could become. Yes, he's not Justin Jefferson or he's not that guy, but I felt like he could be a good, solid player. Like this was mostly Terrace Marshall. He broke tackles. He kept running with the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want from him? I mean,
You just get him the ball more.
Yeah.
Him and Chenault, get both of them the ball more, and DJ Moore, get all of them the ball more.
Well,
Let's get a quarterback that can get him the ball.
Yeah, let's scheme up some plays, to them. They're playmakers,
Yeah.
all three of them.
They are. All right, our last key play here, official key play at least, in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
about a minute 54 left, a 4th and 18 at the Atlanta 26. Panthers up 22-15. This is Atlanta's basically their last gasp here. And then Marquise Haynes with his second sack, I believe in a row, right? Or was there a play in between maybe?
I think there's a play in between.
Okay. So Marquise Haynes, at least his second sack in the series, gets Mariota down 7 lines behind the line of scrimmage, and that ends the game. I mean, Marquise Haynes, really a good couple of plays there, quiet for most of the night. Really, the Panthers' defensive line quiet for most of the night. But Haynes stepped up in a big way at the end of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, I felt like this ended it. Like, this was like, they scored that
I think they got the ball back a little bit at the very end, but this was it.
That score, that touchdown they had before that gave them life. I mean, I don't know if it was J.C. Horn's fault or the safety's fault. There was a miscommunication, but that wide receiver open. So that gave them life. That gave them a glimmer of hope. And then this just nailed it. I mean, like you said, Haynes had 2 sacks on that drive. Just brought him down.
Yeah, I mean, Haynes looked good. I want to see Haynes more. I'd much rather see Haynes out there than whatever Al Michaels was calling Yetur Gross-Matos. Obviously, you didn't know.
I was like,
but he was mispronouncing Yetur's name the whole night. It was pretty entertaining, but it was actually the best thing that Yetur did in the game was have his name mispronounced.
Yetur, I think, is just a run stuffer. I don't think he could get after the quarterback. So I don't, at this point...
That's not what I want from my edge. I want my edge to get after the quarterback.
In my opinion, you need to put Marquise Haynes out there on obvious passing downs and Yetur on obvious rundowns. And then you kind of mix and match. Because I don't know if Marquise Haynes is that good against the run. And that's honestly what this defense has struggled a lot with.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean... I wonder if they can move Yetur inside.
Yeah,
like transition him to a tackle.
He could play that tackle or defensive tackle, slash role where, obvious runs he can. Yeah, that if he could do it, that would be
if he could do it.
A nice little thing he could do. I agree. Yeah. That would be interesting.
But I definitely want to see more Marquise Haynes for sure. Not official key plays here, but I thought pretty key with Hecker.
Oh yeah,
getting some punts down like inside the 5-yard line a couple of times, especially late in the game. I think they scored. Atlanta did score on one of the really deep punts, but it was a long drive and it took time off the clock. And he's a freaking weapon. So glad that we have him on our team, especially the way this offense has worked and he's been used so much.
Yeah, Hecker, a heck of a game. Like you said, there was a couple times where I think the defense benefited from pinning them back inside their 5, where they're just nothing. They had to do nothing because they're scared of getting a safety.
Yeah. I mean, just not a good night overall for Marcus Mariota. Final stats looked okay. But he could have been picked off 3 or 4 times in this game very easily.
Mariota, man.
Mariota, yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. Atlanta's going to go to Ritter. I mean, there was some throws there that was like mid-sack trying to lob that up. That would have been a pick 6 if he wasn't sacked. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just a play you just take the sack. That's just if that was my quarterback, which I'm glad it's Atlanta's, you can't make that play. The other pick by J.C. Horn was another one. He throws it. Those are boneheaded mistakes that in this type of game you just can't have your quarterback making. I mean,
he threw one down the field that should have been picked off by Xavier Woods, bounced right off his hands.
Yeah,
right kind of at the end zone.
And then
another one he threw that
Shaq.
Dante Jackson got his hands on.
Oh,
There was another one that Shaq got his hands on.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
And they're bad decision passes, not great
yeah,
defensive
oh yeah,
plays.
all of them. Right. Just trying to make a play, but bad throws. So Marcus
And,
Mariota, not good.
and PJ Walker, you're not out of your 16 pass attempts, 2 of them could have easily been picked off too. So let's
Mm-hmm.
not act like our
We'll t-
quarterback played great here.
we'll talk about PJ. We'll talk about PJ. But uh, what I really liked in this game, and again, I feel like this is what our offense is, and it worked perfectly given the elements and everything. 47 runs to 16 passes.
Yep. That's
That honestly, that should be pretty much every game as long as you're not like down by 14 points early or something. That needs to be the that needs to be the split. It needs to be like 3-1 runs to passes.
yeah.
That's where you're going to win games if you're the Panthers, because that's just your quarterback is just not good. It's just not good enough to win games.
Your quarterback play in general.
Right.
We're saying PJ Walker, but Baker didn't look great either.
It was the same with Baker. Yeah, it was the same with Baker.
So,
And it would be the same with Sam. Yeah, I mean, they all have their faults. They all have different flaws, but they all have their flaws. And their strengths are about the same. So, all right. Any other kind of general thoughts about the game before we take a look at some stats?
no, not really. I like Deontay Foreman, man. We'll talk about it here in a little bit,
Yeah.
but dude runs so hard, and I
He runs
re-sign
hard.
him.
I mean, that's the perfect way to describe him. He runs hard.
Yeah,
He is a tough running back.
yeah. I mean,
He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy, and he also is just really smart. He's a smart runner.
yeah. Just he kept this game going for the Panthers.
Absolutely. All right. Well, PJ Walker, 10 for 16, 108 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. You could, I mean, an inch here or there, and that Chenault would have been a touchdown. And as you said, a couple of throws could have easily been picked off. His QBR was only 19.8, so take with that what you will. I did like that they ran him a couple of times in this game, like some one designed run, I think, and then another that was like a
broke down play.
An option. Yeah. He 3 for 14 running the ball for him. Not amazing stats, but he ran it strategically a couple of times. It worked out. I'd like to see more of that from him.
Me too.
Yeah, that's really a good element to have in a quarterback, especially one that's maybe not the best at throwing the ball. Give me that extra talent, extra thing that the defense has to worry about. Right?
And that spin move was awesome. Like that was pinpoint. Like
he's obviously got some skills.
I'm not saying run him 10, 15 times a game, but I would like to see 5 to 10 design runs for him, or at least option runs.
Yeah. Rushing the ball, as we're talking about here, Deontay Foreman, 31 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown. Just like you said, I mean, he's a workhorse. I hope that he's back next year. I would not mind at all if he's back next year as our RB1.
No, I think he's earned it. I mean,
he has earned it.
What out of his starts, I think he's had 4 starts and he's rushed 300 or 100 yards 3 times. I mean, that's
three of the 4. Yep.
So yeah, and he's the reason they're winning. He's the reason they've won 2 games and should have won another.
Yeah, I mean, each of those 3 games, 2 of them are wins, and the other one was that overtime loss against Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then the only game in those 4 that he didn't run well was the game we got blown out 42-21. So they just weren't running the ball at all in that game. So yeah, I mean, love Deontay Foreman. Be here for the next 4 years. I'd love for them to re-sign you to a longer term deal. Chenault got credit for the 41-yard run, had another one for 1 yard, so 2 for 42 and a touchdown for him. Blackshear and Chuba, very interesting the way they use these guys. Blackshear ended up with 6 carries for 32 yards. Definitely looked like the better runner between the two. Chuba 5 for 14. Are you surprised that we saw more Blackshear than Chuba in the running game?
I am. I was expecting more of Chuba since he's healthy, but maybe he's not fully healthy. But I mean, at this point, Chuba, you're falling down the pecking order, and I agree. Blackshear looked better.
He did. He averaged 5.3 yards carry, long of 12. So it's not like one of those runs was skewing the numbers. He just looked good, and I want to see more of him. I would rather see Blackshear than Chuba at this point, honestly.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Chuba hasn't. And Chuba had a fumbling problem last year, I believe, and an
mhm.
injury problem. So yeah, let's see
Continues to
some.
have injury problems. Yeah.
So let's see Blackshear. I agree.
Yeah. Receiving wise, Terrace Marshall actually led the team in yards, one catch for 43 yards. DJ Moore, 4 for 29 on 6 targets. Terrace Marshall only 2 targets. But again, I'm kind of throwing that out of this game. I don't really, the passing game just wasn't a part of the offense, really. Shy, 1 for 17. LaVisca, 3 for 17. And then Ricci, 1 for 2. So no Trimble catches. Actually, Trimble was targeted once, but it bounced off his elbow. He had no idea the ball was coming his way.
Yeah, and that was a critical third down too.
Yeah.
It
It
was.
was a bad throw, number one, because it was behind him. Number two, there was a miscommunication as to when that ball was supposed to be thrown, I guess.
I mean, I feel like that's more on Trimble. I agree, it was a bad throw.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a critical down, and
Mm-hmm.
you're not even
You got to be
looking.
ready.
Yeah,
You got to be ready. I will maintain that the Panthers have to address tight end in this offseason.
and I
No
agree
other
with
way.
you now. I was hesitant early. I was like, hey, they need to get shots. Now they've had shots, and you're right. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Defensively, Frankie Louvu led the team in tackles. 12 tackles for him, 2 sacks, another quarterback hit, 2 tackles for loss. Maybe those are the sacks, but either way, he had a really nice game.
Absolutely.
We love Louvu.
I was gonna say last
We
week
love you, Louvu.
he came back last week and he just didn't look right. This looked like Frankie Louvu again. Like
Yeah.
some of those solo tackles were for 3 yard gains that if he didn't swoop in there,
Mm-hmm.
that was a 15-yard run play. I mean,
There was one on Mariota in particular
I
that
think that's the one
Louvu,
I'm immediately
yeah,
thinking of.
Louvu tripped him up. I think it ended up being a 5 or 6 yard run, but it probably could have been a touchdown if he wouldn't have gotten him. So big time play from Frankie. Xavier had 8 tackles. He was next on the list here. We had a lot of sacks. Frankie with 2 sacks, Burns with the sack, and then Marquise Haynes with those 2 sacks towards the end of the game there. I thought Burns was kind of quiet in this game. He did have the sack, but outside of that,
I
not really doing too much. He had a couple of hits.
I was gonna say he had a one. He I thought he had another sack, but it was a shuffle pass, and you could.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
from my
Yeah.
field of vision, I couldn't see it. I thought it was a sack up until they showed the replay, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Even on the broadcast, you couldn't tell. That was one where I think he got it to Allgaier.
But I felt like he was back there a good bit. I think, at least from my perspective,
this is what he does. He gets in the backfield, but he can't. He just can't consistently get the quarterback down. So I hope that whatever coaching staff comes in next year, the defensive coordinator, they're able to unlock Brian Burns because he's got all the skills. Everything's there. He just can't finish it off enough. Because I feel like with his talent, he should be getting 15 to 20 sacks a year. Like, I'm not hating on Brian Burns. I like Brian Burns a lot. I just feel like there's a little piece missing for him to become the guy that we're getting ready to pay, you know?
yeah, I think he's going to end up with 13, 14 sacks this year. But
He could.
I mean, he's already
But
at
again,
7.
but I feel like he's left half of them out on the field.
Yeah, you're right.
He's
He
he's
needs to
just
learn
so
how to
good.
just get a hold of them a little bit better. Because
There's some little piece missing that somebody will unlock it, and then we're going to be happy that we're going to pay him $20 million a year. Derek Brown, another great game for him. That guy just continues to get better every game.
yeah,
Just looking down through the list.
I
here,
will
obviously
say,
we
I
have-
will say that in the stadium, it's so much harder to love on Derek Brown the way from my perspective, it's just harder to watch him because it's all the grunt. But yeah, you could occasionally see him pop up and make huge plays, like the tackles
had
for
a couple
loss.
of tackles for loss. Yep. man, he's dominant. Like, he's not going to be an Aaron Donald getting double-digit sack numbers, but he's just a force, and 100% he is now worthy of that top 10 pick. J.C. Horn did have the interception. That's his third interception in 11 games in his career, so congratulations to him. Nothing else really jumps out from the defensive stats for me. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
On defense, no. Wow, I mean,
let's give some love to Eddie P. Eddie Pinheiro. 4 for 4 on field goals. He did miss the extra point, but I'm not going to blame him on that. It was dropped on the snap.
Was it? Okay.
Yep. It was dropped on the snap, and or the holder dropped it and got it up barely in time. It was just, everything was wet. I thought he did a great job going for 4 for 4 on field goals, a couple of long ones.
And the other extra...
first one was a little shaky.
And the other extra point,
right?
I think it was dropped to the snap.
Mm-hmm.
But he got it up.
Yep.
So
good job with him. And then Hecker, we mentioned 5 punts, 2 inside the 20. I think they were inside the 5, both of them. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, we have a good punter, and that's really saying something. The way this team wants to play, it's very important.
Absolutely. Looking at the Falcons here, Mariota 19 for 30. 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But like we said, that could have been 4 interceptions. Like, it was.
Yeah.
He did not. Don't let the stats fool you. He had a bad game. Rushing wise, he did have 3 carries for 43 yards. Caleb Huntley 5 for 32. Avery Williams 4 for 25. Algier 8 for 20, and then Cordell Patterson 5 for 18. Patterson did not look good in this game. He had a couple of kickoff returns I thought he might break loose. But in the running game, nothing. 5 for 18. As a team, though, 25 carries for 138 yards, a 5.5 average. That's what I was saying. Like, I don't know why they went away from it. It was a pretty close game most of the game.
Well, it looks like most of those yards came from Marcus Mariota.
43 of them, but they, everybody else, like Huntley was 6.4 yards per carry. Williams 6.3 yards per carry. They had running room. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's about what they average in terms of rushing yards.
I do kind of agree with you, though. I mean, why you have 30 passing attempts in this game, especially when the game was so close for most of the game.
A tropical storm. Like, what are you doing? I mean, that's just poor game management, poor preparation, in my opinion. Receiving wise, Damiere Byrd. Damiere Byrd loves playing against the Panthers. 3 receptions for 58 yards. I thought he could have even had more. Drake London 5 for 38 and a touchdown. Kadero Hodge 2 for 37 and a touchdown. Zacchaeus 2 for 34. Kyle Pitts 2 for 28
on 8 targets.
8 targets for Kyle Pitts. I saw that J.C. Horn was following him around from time to time, so good to see that. But yeah, Kyle Pitts once again, just this Falcons staff and game plan, they're killing him. They're just not using him. Free Kyle Pitts, move him to a different team, preferably in the AFC. Get him out.
Could it be that your man crush? Could it be that your man crush just isn't that good?
No, he's very good. He had 1,000 yards last year as his rookie year. He should be getting better. They're just not getting him. I mean, Marcus Mariota, not a very good quarterback, but no, he's good. He's going to be really good. You're just mad because he's on your fantasy team. He sucks.
Yeah, I finally bought in a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I'll get Kyle Pitts. I won't have to worry about my tight end position. And he is garbage. He is garbage in fantasy.
Here is a funny stat for the Falcons. Tyler Algier. 3 receptions for negative 17 yards with a long of negative 5.
Good job.
That's rare. That's rare. For a guy to have multiple catches and a long of negative 5.
It's because we were getting to Mariota so quick. He was just dumping it off behind the line of scrimmage. And our guys, Shaq and Frankie, were right there on him as soon as he would catch it. It would have been better to drop those passes, but hats off.
Absolutely.
And
Every
that,
time he caught one, I thought, why did you catch that?
like, and we have to give credit to the defensive line for getting that pressure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, they were clogging the middle of the field, and that's where Allgaier was as the safety valve, and they hit him as soon as he caught the ball every time.
yep.
Defensively for Atlanta, Rashaan Evans led the team in tackles with 10. Only one sack for Atlanta. Arnold Ebikidi, I don't know, half a sack, and then D. Alford had the other half of that sack. No interceptions for Atlanta. Nothing really else to talk about defensively from them, I don't think.
They had 6 tackles for loss, and that's just because we just constantly were running it.
Screen passes, running it. Yep. I mean,
So
that's what it is. I didn't mention Kadar Patterson. I thought he looked pretty good with kick returns. He had 3 for 85 yards. Almost broke one. Younghoe Koo 0 for 2 on extra points. So again, I think I blame the weather. Younghoe Koo's a good kicker, so I'm not looking too much into that. And then their punter had a couple in the 20 as well. So team stats wise, I just want to look at third down efficiency. Panthers were 6 for 15. So still not amazing, but a vast improvement over the 26% that we've seen all season long.
and on the defensive side, 3 for 11 for Atlanta. I mean that's killer. That means you're just stopping their drives every time, and it's demoralizing on the other side because it's 3 and outs or 5 and out. It's we made a decent play of 20 yards. Oh no, now we're punting again.
Yeah, yep. It is demoralizing. Panthers ended up with 333 total yards to 291 for Atlanta. Time of possession, I always like to look at. About 35 minutes for the Panthers, 25 minutes for the Falcons. So good to see there. And again, that just comes from dominating the run game. 10 penalties for the Panthers. Again, too many penalties for the Panthers. And there was a few penalties that weren't even accepted. Undisciplined. And again, the offensive line, Icky in particular, I think had 3 or 4 penalties himself. So,
yeah.
Uncharacteristic of him. Again, I'm not going to get too crazy about it because I thought otherwise he had a decent game. But I would say for him, probably his worst game since maybe week 1.
Week 1 or week 2, yeah. I mean.
Yeah. But again, we won, so I'm not going to get too upset about it. Any other kind of stats or anything you wanted to mention before we move on?
No, I know it was tropical storm weather and stuff. I really am fearful of winning these games, and then we're gonna believe in PJ Walker, and then we need to look at the other guys. I'm sorry, he wins, but he's too much of an area of concern.
Are you worried that they're going to next year just bring him back as the quarterback? Is that what you're worried about?
No, I'm afraid that we're gonna try to win games, and then we're gonna get to like 5-6 wins, and
you want them to look at the other guys because they're worse.
No, I want them. I would prefer to go the other route if we're gonna try to make a playoff push because the NFC South is garbage.
Yeah,
I think the other guys would be better. I think they would at least because I think with our receivers, who we've mentioned, we feel are all pretty good playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a quarterback that could distribute it to the playmakers better without those boneheaded, throws and inconsistencies that PJ Walker has, then
I just don't know. From what we saw from Baker outside of the second half of last week, I don't know that he's any better at getting the ball to anybody than PJ. Maybe Sam. I mean, Sam got DJ 1,000 yards last year. He might be the best option on the roster.
I'm also banking on the fact that it is noticeable the offense plays better once Matt Rule was gone. So I'm banking on that being part of it as well, especially for Baker.
Matt Rule may have been holding back Baker.
Holding back the offensive schemes and stuff. Because if you remember correctly, the first few games we were running like 13 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I believe me, I remember.
And Baker...
I think that's one of the reasons why McCaffrey was traded, honestly. I think that he just wasn't being used enough.
I think Baker also operates very good in the play action passing game. According to
Mm-hmm.
stats and stuff like that, before the season, I looked at that, and I think that could help him with Deontay Foreman running the rock the way he does, using that play action, being able to get DJ in them. Not saying I'm 100% sold on Baker, but I don't think PJ Walker moves the needle enough to,
Yeah.
if we do sneak into the playoff, to make any damage. Not that this team will probably make any damage in the playoffs, even with one of the other guys, but
Well, I mean, let's look here. We've got the Ravens, Broncos, and Seahawks as our next 3 games, right? Um, Probably 1 and 2 at best in those 3 games, you would say.
yeah,
Then we've got the Steelers, Lions, Bucks, and Saints.
Steelers,
There's the potential there to go 4 and
Lions.
0. Because we've
Yeah,
already beat the Bucks and Saints. We should be able to beat the Steelers and Lions. So I mean, at that point, that's 4 + 5. So that's 8 wins. I mean, does 8 wins
and
probably wins the NFC South?
I was
Because you'd
gonna
be
say
5-1 in the division.
exactly. I mean,
So yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And you could go 8-9 and make the playoffs. And if they happen to steal, you get a bad Geno game or something, and
yeah.
they steal one of those Ravens Seahawks games, who
Spoil,
knows? I
spoiler
mean, it's
alert.
kind of wild.
That Ravens game might be an ugly one though. So
That could be a repeat of the Bengals game. Yeah,
yeah,
that might get ugly quick. All right, well let's do our beer bet recap. You won the beer bet easily.
yeah.
You had Deontay Foreman with more rushing yards. I had Chuba Hubbard. In my heart, I didn't feel like that was going to be a win for me, but Deontay with 130 yards, Chuba with 14. So that may be the most lopsided beer bet that we've had so far. In terms of predictions, you predicted the Falcons to win 27-16. You almost got the score right, just
Yeah.
the wrong win. I had 24-21 Panthers, so yay for the Panthers, yay for me. I don't remember what our bold predictions were. Do you?
Mine was Terrace Marshall 100 yards, and it'll be again next week.
Okay. So, that's easy. Yeah, I don't remember what mine was, but I'm sure I got it wrong. Heroes and zeros. Okay, I feel like we can do heroes and zeros in this game. Would you like to go first with your hero?
I
The
am
same for both of us.
I am gonna go Frankie Louvu. The 2 sacks.
Okay.
He kind of lit up, and like I said, a lot of his solo tackles were very important to stop them from gaining
Mm-hmm.
big chunks. So, and there's heroes across the board on this team, especially on defense. I mean, they kept them
Yeah.
in front of them. And offense, I mean, you know who the guy is. I mean,
And
there's
I'm going
two
to take that
guys.
low hanging fruit. I'm going
Yeah,
to take Deontay Foreman. I mean, obviously, I think Deontay Foreman, is he a better runner than Christian McCaffrey, or as good a runner as Christian McCaffrey? From what
I,
we've seen over the
they're
last month?
completely different. That's
I mean, he obviously doesn't have the receiving game, right? He's
no
not
no.
as good an overall player. But just in terms of running the ball, I think he's just as patient. I think he finds the holes just as well. And I think he has the ability to make guys miss. Maybe he's not as fast as Christian McCaffrey, but I think he's as quick as Christian McCaffrey is. Um, and he just runs really hard. I don't think our running game is better without Christian McCaffrey. It just is.
It is,
And
and
again, that could just be coaching, the coaching scheme and philosophy and everything.
and this is what I was telling my brother because he actually brought this point up with me last night after the game.
Mm-hmm.
I said I don't think he's as good a runner as Christian McCaffrey. That being said, he's a very good runner. They run a completely different style. But
Mm-hmm.
man, I would have loved to have seen a better coaching staff with Foreman and Christian McCaffrey because then you can have both of those guys and not have Christian McCaffrey playing 95% of the snaps. There was no need at the beginning of the season to have him 95% of the snaps. You let
I
him
mean,
rest and make him break
yeah,
out, hit that second half fresh instead of already tiring out.
I wouldn't even have minded McCaffrey having 95% of the snaps, but I thought you could play him at slot and put Deontay
Yeah,
Foreman in the backfield. You lose nothing in the backfield really, and you gain your best receiver essentially being out there as a receiver.
Or yes,
You know?
or you could line them both up in the backfield, and then here's a crazy thought: you could split Deontay Foreman out wide. He could catch. He's not stone
Yeah, I
hands,
mean, he can catch.
and then you maybe
He's
run
just not.
run that Chenault kind of screen to him
Yeah,
sometimes, of stuff like
yeah.
that. Because you,
Man. We have such dynamic playmakers, especially when we had McCaffrey, and Matt Rule just didn't know what to do with them. He just
and,
didn't understand.
and it goes back to the fact that they're not innovative on offense.
Yeah.
McAdoo is just not innovative. Again, they ran that Chenault play, that option of running or screen pass to Chenault, what, 5, 10 times?
Yeah.
So,
I think they ran the play at least 7 times. Like I said, they either passed it to Chenault or they ran with it. I'd like to see them continue to do that. If they're going to continue to run that play, and it seems like they are, maybe once chunk it downfield
yeah,
to DJ or something. Let DJ go out there, because every time, if you're watching, DJ and whoever the other receiver is out there, whether it's Marshall or Shy or whoever, as soon as that play's run, they're going out there to block, right? Pretend to block and then just take off downfield, and then let PJ or Baker or whoever just chunk it down there. I mean, I'd like to see that one time. I think they're setting it up well. They're just never doing it.
just do the fake screen and then chuck.
Yeah. All right. Zeros. I'll go first with my 0 in this game. I mean, it's kind of hard to find one. I guess I'll go with Ian Thomas. He had no targets at all. Just wasn't involved in the game at all. That's your high, not high paid, but that's the guy that you decided to give $15, $16 million for in the offseason. He has been a dud, as he has been a dud his entire career. So Ian Thomas is going to be my 0.
I am not calling out one particular person. I am calling out a whole group of people. The offensive line holdings. You cannot win this game, most games, holding as much as you do. There was critical first downs that were called back because of holding. Some of them didn't even spring the play. They were just holdings. So that is what I'm calling out. Again, Icky was part of that. I am not calling Icky specifically out, but I am calling all the offensive linemen. Another little fun fact from the game is 75 is eligible. 75 is eligible. Every play they called Cam Irving eligible as a receiver. So at this point, I think Cam Irving's a tight end.
Well, he might be the best tight end on the team. I'm trying to find the snap counts for last night, but I don't see it for the Panthers yet. I'll just be curious to see how many snaps Ian Thomas actually had.
Well, if he was a great blocker, they wouldn't have had Cam Irving as the tight end so much. It was just funny every snap. 75 is now eligible as a receiver. 75, he would say it like 5 times too before the play. We're like, we get it. God, I mean.
Here we go, snap counts. Ian Thomas had 50% of the snaps. 0 targets. So there you go. All right. Well, you want to look at the other NFCs? Well, we don't have any other NFC South games to review because they haven't happened yet. So I think that's going to do it, Jerry.
Yep. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. If you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. And please get your submissions in for the 1,000 subscribers swag bag giveaway. We are doing that in 5 days. I think we'll have another episode out before the final drawing, but get them in.
We will indeed. Yes, and maybe, let's see. Well, we said the 3rd. No, what did we say? The 17th or something?
16th.
Yeah. Okay. So whatever. Yeah, we'll do the drawing after our last episode. How about that?
Yeah.
Or after our next episode. All right. Well, we'll be back on, I guess, probably Wednesday, Thursday to preview Panthers Ravens. Until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.